Scott Tatey, joined in studio by Dale Reckless from MRS Physical Therapy. Make sure you go to our Facebook page because Dale always has good demonstrations and props. We've got our new logo on there. We just added it minutes ago, looking sharp. But Dale, good to see you, first of all.
Good to see you, too. Thanks for having me out here.
Your name came up a lot in our household as we were shoveling snow. We remembered the tips you gave us. I wasn't just swiveling around. I was moving my leg, and I was lifting with my legs, not just my back and everything. So thank you for that, first of all.
Absolutely. Do we have the feed running?
It is on my screen. What do you got? You got yours running?
I don't see it yet, but I want to make sure the listeners can also have the option to watch on the Facebook Live feed because we have a lot of good demonstrations today.
Let me double check, but it's looking good on my end of things here. Unless that new logo had something to do with it, but yeah, looking good, Frank, right? I'm looking at a picture of myself right now. Boy, I look handsome. Not as handsome as Dale in his orange shirt.
I don't think you're handsome.
Good to go, right? Yeah, we're good. Go ahead, Dale.
All right, so today we're going to talk about the reasons why you should reach out to see us at MRS Physical Therapy and see your physical therapist.
January, time of year. I like the new commercial. One of the new commercials running for you. You give the advice, if you're feeling sore, you may be tempted just to sit on the couch and kind of rest, but you're making the point. No, you got to stretch. You got to get up off that couch and kind of get the joints and the legs and the muscles moving.
Yeah, you got to go out and do something about it. So let's do a little analogy here. So how often do you see your eye doctor?
Oh, like every 4 years, to be honest. I know. It's not right.
I saw mine yesterday. I see mine once a year. How about dentist?
Twice a year.
Twice a year. We see our dentist twice a year. So the reason why we see our eye doctor once a year is because our eyes change. 4 years ago, if you go back again, which you should on a yearly basis, your eyes change in a year. My eyes are different this year than they were last year, especially as we get older and we age. And the reason why we see our eye doctor once a year is so that we can adapt to the changes that our body's making. And if we don't adapt, then we're actually losing function. Right. So I went to the eye doctor yesterday and he's like, no more readers, which you see on my face today. He says we need to start moving on to the next level of lenses. And I'm really losing function as my eyes change because I can't see my phone without my glasses. I can't see my computer screen at work. Same. I can't drive as safely. So if you're not getting regular checkups with your eye doctor, you're losing function. If you're not going to the dentist twice a year, what happens? You start to get cavities. You might end up getting your tooth decay, maybe having to get teeth pulled. So by going to the dentist twice a year on a regular basis, you're avoiding progressions of issues that could develop. So it's preventative measures to avoid things like oral surgery and things like that. Well, what we're going to talk about today is why physical therapy is the same and why the value of physical therapy is the same as going to your eye doctor once a year or your dentist twice a year. And physical therapy has the same benefits. So if you go to your physical therapist once a year for your checkup, you're going to prevent loss of function. If you go to your physical therapist twice a year to get a checkup, you're going to prevent things like surgeries and things that occur because your body's gotten worse and worse to the point that it finally breaks down and you need to do something about it. And sometimes that is having surgery. So physical therapy has multiple benefits. By seeing your physical therapist once or twice a year to prevent loss of function and to prevent the possibility of having to go to the next step of having surgery, which we all want to avoid that case because that's the worst case scenario. So today we're going to talk a little bit about that. It is a new year, so it's a new year of opportunity for all of us to kind of reset, make some new goals. And I'd like one of those goals for you guys to be to see your physical therapist this year. And don't wait until you're in pain and you can't walk. That's not the time to see your physical therapist. If that happens, you do go to see your physical therapist. But my suggestion is that you see your physical therapist for preventative measures before things become so bad that you have to have surgery for them. Before your balance gets so bad that you're falling and breaking a hip and ending up in a nursing home because of it. Before you start to lose the ability to reach up to a high shelf because your shoulder is starting to freeze up on you. All those things are good reasons to see a physical therapist prior to. And today, if you're able to watch on Facebook Live, I'm going to have some demonstrations that we're going to do. With you, I assume, Scott, you'll be my demo model today.
I'm ready to go.
And part of the things we're going to go over today are objective measures that we do in the physical therapy clinic when a patient comes in and they just want a yearly visit screen. So I'm going to demonstrate a couple of those things that we do. Some of the things are things you can do at home. And that's a big emphasis. What we're going to talk about today is things that you can do at home to kind of self-test yourself, to show yourselves an indicator of, yes, I really need to go see Dale at MRS Physical Therapy because this didn't hurt before, but this year this is hurting. I used to be able to do this, but I can't do it anymore. And there's reasons why, and there's reasons that things that we can do in our physical therapy program to counteract those progressions of the aging process. Some of the things we can slow down the aging process. Some of the things we can prevent things from getting worse to the point of having a fall and things like that. So it's going to be a great program today. So listen in for the full hour. If you have the ability to watch on Facebook Live, also do that. But I'll be giving good verbal instructions, if you want to do some of these tests at home, because they're really good self-tests that you can do at home to indicate if you are starting to lose flexibility, if you're starting to lose balance, if you're starting to lose coordination, lose strength, and things like that. So we kind of have a two-part program today. One is demonstrating the things you might do when you come into my physical therapy clinic, and some of these things you can do on your own at home. Some of the things you can only do in my clinic because I use tools and measures and things like that, but I'd like to try to do as much as we can that you can kind of test yourself at home as well. So a good part of today's program is doing some self-testing at home, some things you can try at home to see if your mobility is starting to change.
I'm going to ask you a question. You talk about you're encouraging people to go see their physical therapist. If I've never done that before, kind of walk me through it. What is the experience like? Is it like going to your physician and you get an overall checkup?
So first of all, you don't need a doctor's referral to do it. Okay, you can just call up and say, "Hey, I want a yearly physical therapy evaluation," and you schedule a time that you want to do it, and your insurance will cover it. And you come in, and I'm going to run you through. Well, first of all, I'll have a discussion with you if there's any areas of concern, because sometimes people come in and they already have an idea. You know what? I want a full screen, but it's really my neck that's been bothering me, or my shoulders been bothering me, or I notice my balance is off a little bit. So I might have a little extra emphasis on those areas that are your first concern coming in. If you come in with no concerns, I'm going to do a full body screen. So a full body screen is looking at your musculoskeletal system. So the musculoskeletal system, looking from your head to toe. So looking at your neck range of motion, your shoulder range of motion, your hip range of motion, your ankle range of motion, which is real key, doing some balance tests, doing some mobility tests, but really we're looking at overall function. So all these individual components have to do with your overall function and how you're doing functionally. And so we'll give you an overall score when you're done to see, are you in the red category of, you really need to consider doing physical therapy for this, or you're going to end up here. Some of you might come in and you're in the green category. It says, just like you go to the doctor and, your prescription's still good, or you don't need eyeglasses, or you go into the dentist and they do a tooth cleaning and you don't have any cavities, you don't need any fillings. We might give you some advice on some flexibility issues, but you don't need physical therapy. You're doing really good with your functional mobility. You have a good plan for what you're doing exercise activity-wise. If you come in and you're doing well, you get a green light, but you don't have a plan, we'll help you out with that. Whether that's an exercise plan for your cardiovascular system. I have an interesting breathing test we're going to do today that's pretty challenging. It's a new test that I just learned about. I've never really applied it to my practice, but I'm going to start applying it to my practice for those with cardiovascular deficiency to show that their cardiovascular system's not up to par. So you'll be tested on that today, Scott, and see how you do with that. So some of these things you need to come into the clinic for, but a lot of these things you can just self-test at home, which I know those people that are listening at home, they look forward to, trying out some of the tests that I do, watching on Facebook Live. So you're welcome to try these tests at home for the self-tests. And then the ones where I actually measure things, you can't really do that at home as easily, but you'll know if you've noticed some functional changes in your life that, when I do the tests, I'll describe what they are and what they mean and how they impact your function. And you might realize as we're doing the test that you probably should come in and get the testing done by a professional physical therapist like myself at MRS Physical Therapy.
I'm ready.
All right, well, come on over and sit in the chair here, Scott.
Grab a water here.
All right, and I'm just going to share our feed real quick here.
right, am I in the picture? Should be.
Yep, you look good. You're in the picture here.
Is my zipper up? Yeah.
All those things you forget about, you don't have to worry about on radio, but as soon as you're going live, you have to think about these things, right?
Yeah, that's true.
Okay, so let me see here. All right, we got some people watching on live, so I appreciate you guys that are watching on live too. So, like I said, these are reasons why you should see your physical therapist on a yearly basis. Maybe you realized last year that your back's starting to hurt you, and this is the year I'm going to take care of my back. Don't wait, give us a call at MRS Physical Therapy. We're going to take care of it. But doing some of these tests today, you'll really realize you are limited, and you're limited functionally, that you can't do the things that you used to be able to do easily. But some of these things that we're going to do today are very measurable. So just go ahead and look at the screen for me, Scott. The first thing I'm going to do is measure your neck range of motion. So I'm going to use your mic here. So the first thing I do, and we do a lot of these with athletes as well. So I should say these are good for all ages, for teenagers on up. There's a lot of research that shows that if you have deficits with these measures that we're doing right now as an athlete, it increases your risk of injury. So a lot of these tests I'm doing objectively are to reduce the likelihood of injury. For baseball players, anyone that's doing any kind of throwing motion, volleyball players, football, things like that. So these are really good tests for us to objectively measure. So the first one I'm going to do is going to measure how far you can turn your head to the right. So turn your head to the right as far as you can. So I should tell you, you can go back straight again. This is called a goniometer, and a goniometer measures range of motion. So his range of motion to the right was 78 degrees. Now turn your head to the left. And his range of motion to the left was 70 degrees. So sometimes we have objective tests that we do that we compare left to rights. This is not one of them. This is a test that shows that if you do not have more than 39 degrees of range of motion, that you have an increased likelihood of having neck problems. So basically, if Scott was only able to turn his head about half that far, which I tend to see a lot in my older individuals, they start to lose their neck range of motion. Well, how does that impact you functionally? Driving, right? When you drive, you have to look pretty far back behind you in order to see that car coming. If you can't turn your head as far, then you're not as safe seeing the oncoming traffic. So losing neck range of motion has a functional component to it, where you lose range of motion in your neck as you get older. You start to lose the functional ability to safely drive, is a good example. You might also start to develop a neck pain and things like that, okay? The next thing we're going to look at, stay sitting there, is shoulder range of motion. So lift your right arm straight up in the air. And again, I'm going to use my goniometer to measure. And his shoulder range of motion, and you can relax back down, was 150 degrees. Do the other side. And that range of motion was also 150 degrees. So Scott has equal range of motion on both sides. Now, what we see, especially in our athletes, when we see a deficit, or I should say a discrepancy between the two sides, if he has a loss of range of motion on one side versus the other side, that increases the likelihood of injury, especially for throwers, pitchers, things like that, anyone that's doing kind of throwing motion. If he starts to lose that range of motion and he starts to tell me, like say in our interview on his yearly visit, he says, well, I have trouble, I can't reach up to the high shelves anymore in my house, or it hurts when I do that, that's an indication that loss of motion that he has, by the way, normal motion is 180 degrees. So that loss of motion that he has is starting to impact him functionally. So today, I haven't talked to Scott about this, but if he were my patient coming in, I would start asking him, does he have any functional limitations? Does he have any pain when he does these activities? And we would address that. And I'd probably give him a little bit of stretching to do to maintain that range of motion so that's not starting to get worse. So let's look at the next one. So bring your arm out to the side. Give me your arm here, right here. Yep, and bend your elbow. And he's going to bring his hand back like he's saying stop. Okay? Then he's going to bring his hand down like this. Okay? And I'm going to measure that range of motion right there. Okay, so that range of motion is 65 degrees. Let's do the other side. And that range of motion is 90 degrees. So that's a pretty big discrepancy. Are you right or left-handed?
I'm right-handed.
Okay, and were you ever a thrower?
Baseball.
Okay. So, as a baseball athlete, I'd be concerned about Scott with his loss of internal rotation on his right side because he's a right-handed person, so he'd be a right-handed thrower. And this happens a lot with our baseball athletes where they have a lot of motion going back, but they start to lose the motion going down. So in that throwing motion, because he's lost this range of motion going down, that's going to start to impact his rotator cuff. It's going to impact his neck muscles and his back muscles because the motion's going to happen, but it's going to come from somewhere else. It's not going to come from the shoulder where it should come from normally with good internal rotation range of motion. It's going to start to put stress on the joint and the muscles in the other part of his body. So if Scott were, if he was still a pitcher and said, Dale, I still pitch in an adult beer league, then I would say, we should work on this. If he was a, 16 to, 30-year-old athlete, I would definitely say we need to work on this. So you're going to likely have issues with rotator cuff tears and things like that if you're a thrower, a pitcher, a baseball athlete, a football thrower, anyone that has any kind of, volleyball, anything that has that kind of action where you're pushing down.
That's major surgery.
Yeah. So if you don't take care of this, then you're going to end up under the knife, and that's the last thing we want, especially for our athletes. Now, if you're an older individual like Scott and myself, that might not bother him. It might not impact anything he's doing right now because it's not terrible range of motion. It's just not full range of motion if he's doing a velocity kind of event. So he might be okay right now. But because he has such a difference, a discrepancy from his right versus left, I might give him some, if he came in for his annual visit, I would just give him one stretch and say, hey, try this to make sure that that's not progressively getting worse for your neck range of motion or for your arm range of motion. Okay? Yeah. All right. Are we good to keep going?
Yeah.
Okay. So let's do a couple of things for the older individuals watching. So let's go ahead and stand up, and we'll just have you back up a little bit. Okay. So the next thing we're going to test, and this is really good for our older individuals. I should put the caveat in there. If you're a younger individual and you've had an ankle injury, the most telling likelihood of having further injury is a previous injury. So if you're a younger individual and you've had a previous injury to your ankle, you have an increased likelihood of re-injuring that ankle again, okay? So this is called a single leg stance test. And I just brought a timer in. So Scott, I'm just gonna ask you to balance on one foot. You pick which side as long as you can. And you guys can do this at home. All I have Scott doing is just balancing on one foot without holding on. Let's try that again, okay? And I usually give people a couple tries here. Yep. So you should be able to balance on one foot for at least 10 seconds. So if you're trying this at home, balance on one foot for at least 10 seconds. If you cannot balance on one foot for 10 seconds, then that's 10 seconds, that's good. Then you have a high likelihood of falling. Which is the last thing you need. So if you did this test at home and you could not balance on one foot for 10 seconds, you cannot wait to come in for your annual visit. You need to call us today and get in for some physical therapy because we need to start working on your balance. Because you currently right now have a high likelihood of falling if you can't balance on one foot for 10 seconds. Now, if you had a hip surgery or knee surgery, or you're currently using a walker or cane, that's probably why you need that walker or cane because you can't balance on one foot for 10 seconds. But that being said, we can improve your balance. It's not just something you have to say, oh, well, I'm just getting older. We can improve your balance through our balance program so you are safer with your walking, even if you are using a walker or cane to help out with that. Okay? So let's go to the next test. And so we'll start sitting in the chair here. This is a sit-to-stand test. So Scott's sitting in a chair, and I'm going to have him come to a full stand and sit back down as many times as he can in 30 seconds. So if you're trying this at home, you're starting in a chair, you're not using your arms. That's the caveat. You got to put your arms across your shoulders. So when you come up, you can't push up. And he's trying to come to a full stand and sit back down as many times as he can in a 30-second time frame. So I'm going to reset the time and go ahead. Full stand, Scott. Full stand and back down. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, and sit 24. All right, good. Not a cardiovascular test, but a functional test. How many times you can stand up and sit back down? What number did we get up to?
24.
Yeah, so that well within normal limits, okay? So Scott had no problems with that test. He might have gotten a little tired doing it, but it's not a cardiovascular specific test. It's to measure your function. So if you try this at home and you couldn't stand up and sit back down at least 10 to 12 times, then that's an indication that you are losing function. you are losing the ability to get up and go, get up and move. You might it might increase the likelihood of you get up and falling if you're not stable enough. Okay, so you should be able to stand up and sit back down in a 30-second time frame without using your arms at least 10 to 12 times. If you're unable to do that, that's an indication that you're losing function. And why is that? Well, we got to dig a little deeper to figure that out sometimes with my patients when they come in. So if you came in for your annual screen, I'd be looking at your ankle range of motion. I'd be looking at your hip strength. Most of the time, this test, when people fail it, they've starting to lose hip strength because that's the power muscles that help them to get up out of a chair. And when you start to lose that hip strength, you lose that function. So that's an important test to look at to measure overall function for the sit to stand. As we go through these, I also want to throw out that it's important to pay attention to what you're feeling with your body. So if you can do the test, but you're having pain, that's an indicator you need some physical therapy because you should not be in pain doing any of these tests at all. All these tests should be pain-free. So if any of these tests you're doing have some pain, then that's an indicator that you need to come see us at MRS Physical Therapy as well. We okay in time? It's 26.
Why don't we do a break now and then we'll come back and do some more.
Sounds good.
All right.
It's a new year. Maybe it's time for a new vehicle from Falcones Moon Township Ford. The easiest resolution to keep this year is the resolution for better transportation. That's because Falcones Moon Township Ford has made a resolution themselves. A resolution, that is, to provide the very best selection, the very best service, and the very best pricing in the entire area. Start the new year off right for even less when you qualify for first responder, military, or college student purchase programs. Visit moontownshipford.net to find out more, or make a resolution yourself to visit the state-of-the-art showroom located on University Boulevard across from Robert Morris College. Start off the new year with a bright and beautiful new vehicle from Moon Township Ford.
Falcones Moon Township Ford, where friends send friends.
Remember way back when you were young and the bus ride to and from school set the tone for what made your day special? School buses and vans have had a special place in the Fry family for 3 generations. At Fry Transportation, the student transportation industry is embraced as a tradition, privilege, and lifestyle. From the morning laughs on the way to school to the talk about the day on the way home. Memories you won't forget, just like the vintage football games aired each week on Beaver County Radio. Fry Transportation, caring for your children as they care for their own.
It might be time to repair or replace that old garage door. Call on Robin and her team of expert installers at Electric Garage Door Sales in Monaca. Dial 724-774-3200 and your door will work like a charm. Featuring CHI quality garage doors, LiftMaster garage door openers, and over 50 years experience, Robin and her team will get it done right. Electric Garage Door Sales. Give them a call at 724-774-3200 or find them online at electricgaragedoorsales.com.
Can tuning into a radio show really change your life? It can when you listen to Beaver County Radio in the 9 o'clock hour, the third Tuesday of every month. Tom Young from First Consultants in Beaver will be the special guest expert and talk about how managing and thinking about the money you already have can potentially create financial freedom for many of you. You can also watch the live video stream of the show on the WBVP WMBA Facebook page. We're back on Beaver County Radio. Scott Tady here, joined in studio by Dale Reckless from MRS Physical Therapy, streaming live on our Facebook page, WBVP WMBA. It's January and a time to renew, refresh, and Dale is giving us some tips on how to do that exactly. How to, well, first thing, one of the themes is visiting your physical therapist. And your offices in particular are located?
Yeah, so we have 2 offices convenient to the Beaver County and Butler County area. The office in Beaver County is MRS Physical Therapy. It's right in the heart of Bridgewater inside Stone Point Landing. So that's 500 Market Street. We are in Suite 103. If you need to give us a call us at the Bridgewater office at 724-728-7550. Then we have an office in Cranberry Township as well. So in Butler County, Cranberry Township, that is on Route 19, right next to North Park Lounge, soon to be called the Sensi's Deck House. So I don't know if people knew that, but Sensi's bought the North Park Lounge. So that's going to be called the Sensi's Deck House sometime in the near future. But anyway, yeah, that's on Route 19. If you want to get a hold of us for the Butler County area, Cranberry Township, that number is 724-591-8121. And if you want to get a hold of of me through email. It's d.reckless@mrsphysicaltherapy.com. Or if you just want to check out our website, it's mrsphysicaltherapy.com. There's a lot of good advice on our website as well, so you can check that out. But what we're talking about today is the reasons why you should see a physical therapist on an annual basis. Just like you should be seeing your eye doctor once a year, your eyes change and you lose function. You can't see as well. You can't see your phone, you can't see your computer, your laptop, you can't drive as well. You lose function when you don't see your eye doctor and get updates. You see your dentist twice a year. The reason to see your dentist twice a year is to get a cleaning, get updates so you don't develop cavities, you don't start to lose your teeth, you don't need oral surgery, things like that. Very similar analogy to a physical therapist. If you don't see your physical therapist once a year, at least, for a regular screen, you might start to lose function, your ability to do things that you used to be able to do quite easily. Might be painful to do it, so we want to get you out of pain. And we want to also prevent the likelihood of you heading down the surgical path. So if we can keep you healthy and prevent these issues from becoming chronic issues that can often lead to surgery, that's the best thing that we can do, especially for people that are having pain or having balance changes in their life. A lot of times you don't realize it unless you have a professional like us at MRS Physical Therapy take a look at you. You may not realize that you're starting to lose range of motion in your neck, your shoulder, your ankles. Your balance is starting to get worse more than you realize. So we have very objective tests that we do when you come in for your annual screen. But what we're going to do next is we're going to talk about things you can do to as a self-screen for yourself at home. It's a musculoskeletal self-screen of things you can do at home to kind of empower you to see how you're doing with your flexibility. Like if you watch the first half of our program today, Scott did a couple of functional tests, the sit to stand test. He said he felt some tightness in his hamstrings doing that test. Well, we're actually going to do some hamstring specific musculoskeletal testing. These are things that you can do at home. If you're watching our Facebook live feed, please use that to get a good visual. If not, we'll give you a good verbal description if you're just listening on the radio. And if you're driving in your car and you want to do these tests but you can't get to them, these will all be saved to your site, right, Scott?
That is correct.
And you guys post this on, it saves on Facebook for a certain time. Do you also put it on a YouTube channel as well?
Yeah, we have a YouTube channel as well,
yeah,
which you can access from our website or the Facebook page, WBVP WNBA.
There you go. So if you're unable to do these tests because you're driving and you want to still do them, then feel free to go back and rewatch our show today so you can redo these tests because they are great visuals to watch. It really helps you to understand the test that you're doing, especially for these self-tests that you're going to try to do by yourself. And also, if you are doing this at home, make sure you're safe and you're not putting yourself at any risk of injury. Either have your partner help next to you so you don't lose your balance and fall, or have something to hold on to that's secure so you don't lose your balance just trying to test yourself. So
I feel better. I feel more limber since you had me doing those tests because I've been sitting here like a lot
you
of
got to
people.
move around, right?
Yeah.
If you're sitting at your desk, you have a desk job, and we talked about this during the break. You should be moving around every half an hour, and just getting up and moving around helps the flow of the body. Because just sitting around, that's going to get a lot of things to get tight, and over time, that takes its toll. Especially if you're a desk worker, neck, low back issues. I see that every day because people just aren't moving around enough.
What's the next test? I'm ready.
You're going to come on over. We're going to do some more testing with you.
All right.
So we got Scott coming over. So this, again, is the self-movement screen that we're going to be doing. You're standing, Scott. Okay. Okay, so this first test, it's a toe touch test. So you're going to start with put your right foot just a little bit ahead of the left. So if you're doing it at home, feet together so they're touching. But one foot, it's not tandem, so it's not heel toe, but make that right foot about a half the distance forward so your heel is at the arch of your foot. That's good right there. Okay? So with your knees locked straight, you're going to reach down and try to touch your front foot toe. So the foot that's forward, you're going to try to touch that toe with your fingers. Okay? Then come back up. Now try with both hands. Okay, and back up. Now, I'm observing Scott when he does that, and he did it, but he had to bend his knees a little bit, which tells me he had some tightness in his hamstrings. Okay? Now try to touch your back foot with both hands. Okay? So if you're doing this at home and you had to either bend your knees or you cannot reach your toes, that's an indicator of tightness in your hamstrings. Why is that important? Because loss of hamstring flexibility, it impacts a lot of things. If you're a runner, it's going to impact your gait, your stride length. If you're a walker, it's going to affect how long how big your step is, which can impact your balance. It's also going to impact your low back. So people don't realize this, but your hamstring and your hip flexor flexibility, so the muscles behind your thighs and the muscles in front of your hips. Losing flexibility there as you age increases the strain on your low back. So I see this with my low back patients almost 100% of the time, which is a pretty big number. But almost 100% of the time, my low back patients have tightness in their hamstrings and tightness in the hip flexors. That's causing increased strain and stress in their low back. So that's why hamstring flexibility is so important.
Does it work both ways? If I have like preset arthritis in my back, does it affect my legs?
Well, if you have arthritis and pain in your back, it's going to affect your whole body and how you move. So, but most of the time, it's not your low back arthritis that's affecting your hamstring flexibility. It's your hamstring and hip flexors that are affecting your low back. Yeah. So we have to address the hip flexor and hamstring tightness in order to take the stress and strain off your low back. Okay? So that's test number 1. Test number 2 is a deep squat. So you're going to try to do a deep squat and try to just touch your fingertips to the ground. So if you're trying this at home, touch your fingertips, okay? So come on back up. So I would not call that a deep squat because your knees didn't bend enough. If you feel comfortable, try to bend your knees all the way and do a full deep squat. There you go. Fingertips and back up. Okay, so the first test is fingertips. The second test is fists. So touch your fists to the ground, same kind of squat, and back up. Okay, so I'm watching Scott's motion. He has a little bit of decreased drop in his hips as he comes down. So again, I'm probably going to look a little bit more at his hip flexibility, his hamstring flexibility, and some of his strength there. Then I'm also asking, and I'm going to ask you guys that are trying this at home, did you have any pain with that? Did you have any pain in your hips or knees or ankle doing that full motion with your fist touching down?
I personally did not.
Okay, so that's perfect. So all these tests, if you have pain doing any of these tests, just doing the functional activity is not enough. You have to be able to do the activity without having any pain or discomfort to pass the test. So in the end of the screen, Scott's going to get a red light, which means, we need to get him into some therapy now. He's going to get a yellow light, which is he's got some deficits, but we're going to give him some exercise to do. He's going to get a green light, which we'll have a discussion, how are you doing with what's your normal program? Are you good with that? Do we need to make any fine tuning? So the green light's just fine tuning. You don't need any therapy. You're good to go. So when you come in for your annual screen, you're going to get that kind of report. Okay, the next one is you're going to have a narrow stance, so your feet are together. And I tested this one out, and I'm going to see if you know what I mean. You're going to do your Charlie's Angels pose. So with your hands, Charlie's Angels pose, just like that. So if you're not watching live on Facebook, Charlie's Angels pose is, you have the hands out like you have a gun in your hand, like you're a gangsta, right? But this is a rotation test. So now he's going to rotate with his hands posed like he's holding a handgun to the right as far as he can. Okay, and then go back the other direction. And I'm looking for quality of motion, how far he can move in each direction. And do that again for me. Okay, and go the other way. And it looks like he's got more motion to the right than to the left. Do you feel that, Scott?
Yeah,
he can't go as far to the left as he can to the right. So that's a sign that he's starting to lose some rotation, flexibility in his thoracic spine. Okay, so what we're going to do next is you're going to do the same thing, but you're going to start with your feet staggered. So just like we did with the last test, put one foot on the other, and do that same test. Hands up and rotate to the right, then rotate to the left. Okay, so this and then we're going to switch, put the other foot forward. So now you're going to put, if you're trying this at home, now your left foot staggered forward, and you're doing the same kind of rotation to the right and to the left. Okay, so now we're starting to notice that he doesn't. Now, some of you might at home, could be a balance test for you, so you might notice some balance issues with it. Scott was fine with his balance, but we did notice some rotational loss of motion. So Scott is starting to lose some rotational motion as he ages. So if you were able to go farther one direction versus the other direction, that's an indication that you're starting to lose some range of motion. If you had pain with any of these, that's a red flag. You need to come see me at MRS Physical Therapy for some treatment for that. Okay, the next test we're going to do is shoulder mobility. So I'm going to use my paper here. So get a piece of paper and fold it in threes. So you have like a trifold. You want like a narrow, or you could use a ruler at home, like a 12-inch ruler if you have a ruler lying around, but a paper's 12 inches, so you can use that too. So what Scott's going to do is he's going to hold it in one hand. That hand's going to come up behind his head, and the other hand's going to come back behind him, and he's going to hand it from one hand to the other. Nope, one hand comes back behind you like you're scratching your back, and the other hand comes up over your head like you're scratching the top of your head. And try to hand the paper from one hand to the other.
Ooh, coordinated.
Okay, go ahead and turn your back to the screen so they can see what you're doing here. Okay, so you're gonna.
Oh no, it goes.
Yeah. So Scott's reaching from one hand to the other hand to get that piece of paper, and then switch and do the other direction. So now, the other hand comes up, the other hand comes behind the back, and he's reaching it. And go ahead and do the other side again. Okay, so Scott has a little challenge doing that, and I'm going to tell you why he has a challenge doing that. Remember that first test I did where he didn't have all the internal rotation on that right hand? That's why he's having trouble with his test. So functionally, he is now having trouble with his test. He is not passing this test, and he's like, why can't I do this? You should see his face right now. He's like, man, I should be able to get this. Okay, you can stop, turn. But the reason why that test was hard for him is because that first test when I measured him with this goniometer, remember that he didn't have that internal rotation on the right side compared to the left? When we tested that behind his back, he couldn't get that arm up high enough because he's lost that range of motion. So he's starting to lose function that we see with that arm with that test. Now, the second part of the test, I know he's not going to be able to do, but I'm going to show you the test anyway because he couldn't do it with a piece of paper. Now, did you have any pain with that test?
No.
Okay. So if you did that test and you had some pain, that's signs that you're starting to get some impingement issues with your shoulder. And that's a red flag. You need to come see us if you had pain with that. Scott did not have pain. He's just starting to lose some function. So I would give us some exercises to work on to make sure that function doesn't continue to get worse. Now, the second part of the test is go ahead and get in the same position so that watchers can see you. And you're going to have one hand up over your head and the other hand behind your head. And you're actually trying to touch one hand to the other hand. And I know you're not going to be able to do that because you had such challenges with the piece of paper. Okay. Now, the one direction, he's pretty close. Oh, you're close. You got it with the one hand. And the reason why he can do that on the one side is because his external rotation on that right arm was really good. The internal rotation on the left arm was good. But he does not have the internal rotation on his right arm to allow him to pass this test with that right shoulder. So his functional limitation, we know from this functional test, as well as the measurements that he did earlier, that he's lost range of motion internally in his shoulder. If you're an athlete, have your grandson or grandkid do that. If he can't do this, he needs to come see me, especially if he's a thrower, a pitcher, a volleyball player, a football, something with any kind of overactivity activity. He's going to end up having rotator cuff issues, if not immediate down the road, if he is not getting that range of motion back. So that's crucial, especially for your athlete. As an older individual, I keep throwing you under the bus as an older individual, Scott. I apologize, but I'm older than you, so no worries there. But if he's starting to lose that function, that could start impacting him down the road. Okay.
So what do you recommend? Exercises or?
Yeah. So I would give you some stretching exercises. So an easy one to do is using a towel, and you have a towel and you throw it with your one hand. You have it. The good arm's going to have it up. The bad arm's going to have it behind you, and you're going to use that towel. You're going to pull up with your good arm to get the stretch through your bad arm to get that internal rotation improved.
Like the dental floss.
Dental floss, but you're doing that same motion, but it helps to improve that range of motion in your shoulder. So that's a really good one for you. Scott, you're a great demo for that one because you kind of showed us a couple things with that loss of motion that kind of made sense for our watchers and our listeners to why that test is really valid and helps out. Okay. So next is a balanced reach test. So let's see how we're going to do this. I'm going to put this water bottle down in front of you. Hold on here. So for those that are doing this test at home, you need something that you're going to be just touching with your foot in front of you. So it could just be the couch or a chair in front of you. I didn't really have anything else, so we're just going to use a water bottle. And try not to kick the water bottle over here, Scott. But what you're going to do is you're just going to take one, so step closer to it. So you're going to start with just 1 foot length behind that object that you're tapping. So step back a little bit more. So you have about 1 foot length. Okay. Yeah. And he's going to tap that forward with the right foot and then back and then the left foot. Okay, just like that. And you don't have to be on top of it like Scott just did, but you're just going to kind of get your foot to it. But you don't want to have to, put your foot down in between. So now you're going to step back 2 foot lengths back. Okay, come a little closer. That's more than 2. Right there is good. And you're going to do the same thing, but 5 times on each foot. So now with the right foot, you're going to come forward and tap that bottle, then come all the way back. That's 1. That's 2. That's 3. That's 4. That's 5. Then you're going to do it with the other foot, same thing. So Scott is 2 foot lengths back, and he's coming forward, and he's tapping that bottle 5 times. And the water bottle fell, but that's okay. He's still getting the test. You fail that test if you are unable to do that, or you have to take, or if you lose your balance, you have to take a step down. The last part of the test is you're going to be 2.5 steps back. So take another half step back with each foot, and you're going to do the same thing 5 times. So now he's 2.5 foot lengths behind the item that he's tapping with his foot. Do 5 times to the right and 5 times to the left. Okay. So when people don't pass this test, I look at a couple things. One is I look at their balance. So if he did not pass that single leg stance test, then he's going to have a tough time with this test because it requires you to balance on 1 foot in order to reach that forward, and backwards 5 times. If he had any pain with that, ankle pain, hip pain, knee pain, that's an issue. If he was unable to reach that far, if he was unable to go 2.5 steps back from the item and tap that 5 times, he might have a loss of ankle range of motion. So it could be the ankle range of motion. So you can see how it's pretty complex. It's multifactorial. As a physical therapist that specializes in this, I have to look at a lot of different areas in the movements of the body to see why this functional movement is starting to decrease. And this can impact your ability to go up and down stairs, go up and down a curb, your normal walking. So being unable to do this test has a lot of functional implications to it. Why he's unable to maintain his balance or why he's having pain. I would have to dig deeper into that if that's you as an individual coming in. Or maybe you tested at home and like, Dale, that hurt. I couldn't do that test. I failed it. What do I need to work on? Give us a call at MRS Physical Therapy and we're going to help you figure that out. Okay, so let's go to the next test. It's a shoulder clearing test. So you're going to put your right hand on your left shoulder. Yep, just like that. And you're going to raise your elbow up in the air. Okay, just like that. So if you're just listening at home, Scott reached with his right hand and put it on his left shoulder. So his opposite shoulder, then he lifted his elbow up in the air. And the question with this one, it's not a measurement, it's a question. Any shoulder pain with that?
No.
Okay, and then do the other side. So reach across and elbow up, okay? So this is called a shoulder clearing test. If you have pain doing this test, reaching your one hand to the opposite shoulder and lifting that elbow up in the air, and you want to get that elbow up high like Scott has up to his forehead or so. You can relax there now, Scott. That's an indication of having some shoulder impingement issues. If you have a young athlete, a thrower, again, have your grandson or your kid try this. It's a real quick, easy test. If he says, yeah, that hurts, you need to come see me at MRS Physical Therapy because he could be having some labral issues or some rotator cuff issues in his shoulders that's causing that. And we need to take care of that problem so it doesn't become an issue that could linger and become a chronic pain problem for him. It could lead to rotator cuff tears and issues with like that. So that's a super simple test you can do on your own at home. If you're an older individual and you're not a thrower, but you had problems with that, that's shoulder impingement. You're likely starting to lose your shoulder range of motion, which is going to make it difficult for you to reach up to high shelves and things like that. Okay, so let's go on to the flat on this floor here, Scott. So you're going to lie on your stomach. So if you're at home, he's lying flat on his stomach there. I'm not sure you're still on the screen there, but if he's not, he's just lying flat on his belly there, okay? And he's not going to do a push-up. He's going to do what's called a press-up. So his hands are going to be underneath his shoulders, and you're going to keep your hips down. So your hips and your legs stay down on the floor, but just your head and shoulders rise up as you do a press-up. So he does a press-up. He's locking his elbows all the way out as his hips come down. And I'm asking him, do you have any pain with that?
No.
Okay. He doesn't have any pain, but I see his hips rising up, which means he's starting to lose some back flexibility. Do you have any back arthritis? You mentioned that. Do you have any back issues?
So.
Okay.
Lower back, yeah.
So he's got some tightness in his hip flexors and probably some loss of motion in his low back as well. So if you are not able to do a press up, you can come on down and stand back up again because that's a harder position to hold. You only have to do that once and hold that position. So if he had pain with that, you need to come see me. You need to call me today. We need to start taking care of that because that's low back issues that's going to become a problem long term for you. If your hips rose off the ground instead of staying down on the ground, that means you either have tightness in your hip flexors and or you're losing flexibility and range of motion in your low back. Another reason to come see us, that's a little bit more just, I need to give you some exercises to work on. So that's more of a yellow flag. This is a red flag. He didn't have any pain. He's just losing motion there. He needs to work on some things. New year, new you. Get yourself working on some of those flexibility exercises so it doesn't become a problem. If he does not work on that, his hips are going to continue to get tighter. His low back's going to continue to get tighter. And he's probably going to end up with low back pain down the road if he doesn't take care of that now. All right, we're doing good. We're at 49 here. All right, you can go and take a seat for this one. So this is an interesting test. This is a new to me test. I'm going to give you that mic here. So this is called a breathing test. So this is a breathing test that measures your cardiovascular abilities, and it's not an easy test. I tried this one on my own, but what it is you hold your breath, and the goal is to hold your breath for 25 seconds. And how this test is a little tricky, so I want you to listen if you're going to try this at home, okay? You're not taking a deep breath in and holding it, okay? You're not holding it until you feel dizzy, okay? You're not holding it till you feel lightheaded. You're not holding it till you have to gasp for a breath of air. You're holding it just until you feel a little bit of discomfort. A little bit of discomfort where, I should probably take a breath. So this should not be a dangerous test for you to do at home, okay? It's holding your breath, and you hold it at the end of your exhale. You exhale, but you don't exhale all the way. You exhale like you're ending your breath, and that's when you hold your breath. Okay? So it's not like taking a deep breath in. You're not doing that. You're not exhaling all of your breath out and then holding it. You're kind of doing a normal breath, and at the end of your normal breath, you hold your breath. Then I'm going to time you for 25 seconds. If you're trying this one out at home, start breathing again as soon as you feel any kind of discomfort where you're like, yeah, I need a breath. Okay? So we're going to time Scott for this, and the goal is 25 seconds. We'll see how you do.
Okay.
So just take a normal breath, and then as soon as I see you, I'll do this. As soon as I see you plug your nose with your fingers, I'm going to start the time.
Okay.
So I know that you're at your exhale.
All right.
Okay? Okay. And then just raise your hand when you start taking a breath. And remember, we're just going to the point of feeling a little discomfort, maybe discomfort in your neck or feeling like, oh, I need to take a breath. Okay. So that was 14 seconds. And Scott's a professional talker, right? So he's talking a lot on air. So he doesn't have any respiratory problems, but that's a measure of your cardiovascular fitness. And you should be able to do that for 25 seconds.
Let me try that again.
Yep. We're going to give Scott another try. So when you plug your nose, I'm going to start the time and raise your hand when you start taking a breath.
Okay, so just taking one breath.
Yep. Okay, and we're timing Scott again. If you're just tuning in, we're doing the breath test where you should be able to hold your breath comfortably for 25 seconds without any gasp. You know, you stop the test as soon as you feel any kind of little bit of discomfort there. And the goal is to hit 25 seconds if you're trying this at home. So that was 22 seconds. So that was pretty close to normal. I would give you a pass on that. Maybe at this point, if you're not able to do this test at home, we talk about your cardiovascular fitness. You should be exercising 150 minutes a week. So maybe you're not doing any kind of cardiovascular activity, and we'll talk about the importance of cardiovascular fitness and exercise and how that helps your whole body and your whole system. This isn't a test where I have people start holding their breath as an exercise, but it is a test that gives us functional measures of your overall cardiovascular fitness, and that's the value and importance of doing that test. If you could not do that test at home, or you only made it to 10 seconds, then I want you to come in and talk to me about your cardiovascular activity and what that means to you. What do you like to do? Do you like riding a bike? Is a stationary bike the right thing? Do you like to walk? Are you a are you maybe ability to do some running? Maybe that's something you want to get back into. And then, of course, if you're getting into a cardiovascular program, I want to talk to you about your musculoskeletal system, how you're doing with your range of motion, your muscle strength, and things like that. Okay, so the next test, I know we're getting close to the end here, but we're doing good on time. These are a series of quick tests to measure hypermobility. And why we measure hypermobility, and again, you guys will be able to do this pretty easily on your own at home, is because we treat people different that are hypermobile, which means too much motion, versus hypomobile, which is not enough mobility. A lot of my patients come in and they have hypomobility. That's a pretty common thing as we age. We lose motion. We lose flexibility in our hamstrings, our hip flexors, our low back. That is hypomobility. That's losing motion as we age. A part of the aging process that happens to most of us that we have to do something about to keep ahead of through exercise and activity, through coming to see your physical therapist once a year, that kind of thing. Now, the patient that's hypermobile, they have a little bit of a different issue. They can still have pain with these tests, but it's from too much motion versus too little motion. And these are the tests that you do. You'll hear people call the Beighton or Beighton score, or people that have issues with hypermobility. They have all sorts of different issues. So the first test is putting your hand out and seeing how far you can pull your pinky down into hyperextension. So try to pull your pinky down. And if you can pull your pinky down to more than a 90-degree angle on this joint right here, so more than 90 degrees, which I don't have very much motion in my pinky. Scott's got a little bit more than me, but he doesn't have more than 90 degrees. So he passes that part of the test for hypermobility, meaning he doesn't have too much motion there. The next test is you put your hand out in front of you with your palm down, and then you try to pull your thumb down to your forearm. Not down this way, Scott. Look at me. Yep. Oh. Try to pull it down to touch your forearm. So I have a little bit more motion. Let your wrist bend.
Okay.
like that.
Oh, okay.
Yep. So I have a little bit more motion. I'm close, but I'm not touching my forearm with my thumb. Scott has a little bit less range of motion than me, but that's a pass, meaning there's no hypermobility there in that test.
You know about the word double jointed?
Yeah, it's
my
kinda like
sister's
that.
one of those people. She can touch her
I
thumb.
bet your
to-
sister's
yeah.
going to fail this test if you do this at one of your next events. So next you're going to put your elbow straight out. And this is where a lot of people feel they see that double jointedness, where that motion in the elbow, it's hyperextending, right? It's going farther than straight. Like most people, they straighten out their elbow and they just have a straight line. You might have a little bend there. You might be losing motion there, but you're not going the opposite direction, okay? If you go the opposite direction where your wrist and that line is lower than your elbow, that's a hypermobility in the elbow. Oftentimes people see that as double jointed. That's a fail of the test. That's another positive indicator of hypermobility if you have your wrist passing below your elbow and that elbow is hyperextending. Okay. The next test is palming the floor. So go ahead and stand up for me, Scott. And this one amazes me because I don't think I could ever do this, but some people, they just do it. It's usually ladies that can do it because they typically have hypermobility issues more than men. But what you're going to do is with your knees locked out straight, reach down towards the floor and see how close you can get your palms to the floor. Both palms at the same time. Yep. So Scott's about 5 inches away from palming the floor and his knees are starting to bend. You can go and take a seat there.
You hear their back creaking.
Because we know his hamstrings are tight. We know his back has some loss of range of motion. But some people are able to palm the floor, which means with their knees straight, they just bend forward at their hips and the palms come all the way down flat on that floor. And that's a hypermobility. That's hypermobility in the hips and the low back. So people that are able to do all of those things, they have a high Beighton score, and it's an indication of hypermobility. And I need to treat those patients differently than I do my hypomobile patients because they need a lot of stabilization exercises. They're having pain because of their hypermobility. There's too much motion. I have to work on a lot of stabilization exercises to kind of stabilize that joint so there's not any pain there. So that's the issue I see with my hypermobile patients. So all these tests that you did at home with me, the test that if you were to come and get your annual screening with me, these all help to catch major mobility problems and motor control issues, and they help empower you to take the next steps. Taking the next steps to better health. So that's the benefit of these. We really want to empower you listeners at home, to come in and see us at MRS Physical Therapy. If you want to schedule your appointment for your annual PT screen, give us a call at MRS Physical Therapy, which is in Bridgewater, right in the heart of Stone Point Landing. That number is 724-728-7550. Or if you want to come to the Butler County office, that's Cranberry Physical Therapy. That's right on Route 19 next to North Park Lounge, soon to be called the Sensi's Deck House. And that number is 724-591-8121. Remember, you don't need a script from your doctor, and your insurance, when you call up, we'll check your insurance to make sure your benefits cover it. But we highly recommend that you come and get an annual health screen with your physical therapist. It's a musculoskeletal health screen, just like you get your annual eye doctor screen, just like you go to your dentist twice a year. We need to take care of your musculoskeletal health so you don't end up with balance problems, you don't end up with falls, you don't end up with unnecessary surgeries. We can help prevent all these things if you just come see us for your annual health screen at MRS Physical Therapy.
This is the year. Go see your physical
This is
therapist.
the year, 2026.
All right, Dale, thanks for that. And like you said, you can go to our Facebook page or YouTube site and you can see the demonstrations we did. Dale, I thank you for that. I feel good.
All right.
I'm a little bit worried about my mobility, but we'll talk about some exercises.
Sounds good.
All right. Thank you all for joining.
Patriot Home Care is now